Alright, I want to quickly show you a DaVinci Resolve plugin that takes the footage from pretty much any camera, and as much as I'm going to hate myself for saying this, makes it look much more cinematic. This is a plugin called LensNode, and it essentially emulates the look and the characteristics of a bunch of different lenses, some of which are going to be very high-end expensive lenses, and others are going to be slightly more affordable vintage lenses. And I got a test license for it from one of the developers ages ago when it was still in a very early stage of development, but since then I've been keeping up with it and I've been testing it out across the different updates that they've been putting out, and I've genuinely been super impressed by how well it works. So not long ago they finally released version 1.0, and I thought that it might finally be a good time to show it off in case anybody finds it useful. And all of the links that you need are going to be in the description. Also, I'm not sure if I would have been able to set this up before the video's out, but I might have a discount code that you can use for the plugin. So if I do have one, it's either going to be somewhere on screen or I'm just going to have it down in the description with the link to the plugin. So to get it set up, after you've bought a license, you just download the installer for whatever system you're running and you install it like any other program. And then it should show up in the effects library on the color page in Resolve. Then you drop it on a node and this is what the interface looks like. It's definitely gone through some changes since I started trying it out, and I'd say that what they've done with it is actually really nice and it feels very intuitive so far. At the top, you got the main section with some of the lens presets, as well as the main settings that you can mess around with to quickly get an interesting look. You got a menu for the input color space, so you can set that up depending on the camera that you were shooting with and where this plugin is going to go in your color grading workflow. Then you got a list of lens manufacturers. So for this clip, I can pick, let's say, Cook. Then under that, there's the family menu, because some of these lens manufacturers have different lines of lenses available. So for this example, I'll just pick the S4s. And below that, you can finally pick which lens from that specific line you want the plugin to emulate on your footage. Under all that, you got the master blend, which basically controls how visible the effects are going to be from this plugin. Then there's the overdrive slider, which lets you exaggerate the effects and make them stronger. And this is going to be more visible for some lenses and less for others. You've also got a slider for the sensor size, because these lenses will obviously look differently depending on the camera sensor that they're being used with. And you finally got the f-stop sharpener, which reduces the effects in the center of the image. But if you forget what any of these do, you can just hover over them and it's going to give you a short description about each of them. Now, to be completely honest, as I've been messing around with this plugin, I've mostly been sticking to the options and the presets that are up here in this section, because I find that these work well for what I need out of this plugin, but you could take it so much further with some of the other sections. For example, you've got a list of the individual controls for each of the characteristics of whatever lens you're emulating, and this lets you really fine-tune the part that you like about the look of the lens while toning down the ones that you want to avoid, and you can even extend the ranges for these sliders to push it even more. Then below that, there's a mix and match menu that lets you take the separate characteristics from different lenses and mix them together to essentially make your own custom look. And then there's a settings and quality menu that dives even deeper into fine-tuning the look that you're getting. And this is something that I never touch, but again, if you hover over any of these options, you get a short description of what it does in case you need it. Now, I just want to show you some examples of what this plugin looks like on some clips that I've shot across different cameras while I talk about some of the pros and cons. First of all, right on top, I think this plugin is amazing and it can open up so many creative opportunities for people who want to get a more interesting look out of their camera and lens combo, but might not have the budget to do it practically. The list of available lenses is already much bigger than back when I originally started testing this out, and they have said that it's going to continue growing, so that basically means that you'll be able to get even more out of it down the line. And aside from just the lenses, the team making LensNode also have an option that emulates the specific looks from a few different movies, and I'm guessing that they're going to keep adding onto this as well. So again, it makes it that much more versatile if you're after that specific style. Like I said, there's a ton of customization options if you want to do your own thing and not stick to the presets, and they work just fine for me, but I know that some people out there really like diving deep with these plugins, and you have the option to do that here. Now, there are a couple of things that are slight drawbacks or cons that I also want to talk about. And one of them could be the price, because there are subscription options and there's also a lifetime license, but depending on what you're going to be using this for, it might seem a little bit expensive. That said, if you're planning on using this for client work, it's probably going to make the money back in one project, so it might not be a problem. But if it's just for fun, the price tag could be a little steep for some people. Something else to keep in mind is that this plugin is going to hit your computer performance quite a lot, because what it's doing behind the scenes is actually pretty complicated. And I upgraded my PC not long ago, and at this point I would say that it's pretty decent. Like, I got a Ryzen 7 7700, I've got an RTX 5070 Ti, I've got 64 gigabytes of 6000 megahertz RAM, I've got a pretty fast internal SSD, and I still can't get smooth playback when I have this plugin on my footage. And I can tell you that when I was still on my 9-year-old PC testing this plugin out, trying to run it felt like hell. So if you decide to pick this up and to try it out, you really need to set your expectations about how it's going to run so that you don't end up being disappointed that it's not perfectly smooth. Now, I'm sure that they're going to keep working on performance improvements, but that is something that you just want to keep in mind. But yeah, with all of that in mind, this is just a great tool, and I have been super impressed by how the team behind it have been improving it over time. And it is definitely something that I'll keep using here and there, and you might be able to spot it in future videos on the channel down the line. So I think that's it for this one, but if you got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you if I can, but I'll talk to you in the next one. See ya.